By the year 2030, so that's 6 years from now, every baby boomer will have turned 65.
Yeah.
Okay. So
That's amazing.
that's when that population will really start growing. But taking care of people, that's the biggest population. We're going to have a tsunami on our hands, so to speak.
That's very true.
In a couple years in taking care of everybody. And they want to stay at home.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sounds of Health, where we shine a light on the stories, people, and resources that help our listeners to improve their physical, emotional, and financial well-being. Past guests have included a personal trainer and geriatric exercise physiologist, a professor of the public health course Death, Dying, and Bereavement at Southern Connecticut State University, and a former Major League Baseball player turned entrepreneur and motivational speaker. If you're joining us for the first time today, be sure to give those episodes a listen. I'm your host, Dave McNiven, and today is another first for us as we welcome the team from Always Best Care Senior Services in Wallingford, Connecticut. This is a first because we actually have two guests on the podcast for the first time. We have the franchise owner and director, Linda Craig, and the senior living consultant, Cynthia Montano. Ladies, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much,
Good morning.
Dave.
Thank you.
I'm so excited to have you both here. I appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks.
Well, we're excited to be here as well.
That's great. So the three of us know each other mostly from networking and from being out there in our communities. So I tell the story a couple of times where, when I first went independent and opened my business, the very first thing I did was join the Chamber of Commerce. So I became a member of the Hamden Regional Chamber of Commerce, where I know, Linda, you and I had met.
Yes.
Right? And Cynthia, you and I knew each other because in your former role, in your former life, and what I did kind of meshed and overlapped. So we had met, and then we got reacquainted through the Chamber.
Right, and here we are again.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. The Chamber is a very good place to be involved in.
It really is, yeah. And not all chambers are made equal. I really do feel like ours is so active and so
yes.
supportive.
Yes, very active. Really understanding, bringing people together, supporting, teaching us how to support one another.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually
group.
belong to 3 chambers,
Wow.
and they're each different.
That's
And,
amazing. Yeah.
But the amount of networking and reaching out and meeting people is, just wonderful.
It really is. And you can fill your entire calendar with it.
Yep,
You
for
know.
sure.
And then
Yes.
we also participate on the Health and Wellness Council
Yep.
through the chamber. So that's a great way to give back to the community and to get involved and to really support all of the different resources that seniors have in our community.
That's very important. The seniors have given so much to us,
Yeah,
and it's time to give back to them,
absolutely. Yeah.
to help them out as well.
Yeah. And I do feel like, any community having a healthy senior population and a healthy youth population, if you put a lot of resources and time into making sure those two populations are doing well, everything else kind of takes care of itself.
That's true.
Yeah.
Really, our job is to educate our community
Yeah.
on the various topics that are important to people, whether it be Medicare, home care, senior living, referral services, whatever it is. We're here to educate and to support our community.
That's so true. And I think there's so many resources out there that people don't know about. And we're going to get to what you guys do in your business because it's so important. Through my business, I'm in people's homes helping them with health insurance and Medicare and seeing all of the needs that they have. One of the things that I think most people struggle with is not having a plan for when they require more care. And it puts such a burden on them and their families. So knowing, what to do, who to call is so important. And I think both of you and what you do is really important. Cynthia, before we get off the topic of the chamber, though, you're also another role through the chamber, right? So
Yes, I'm an ambassador with the chamber, and my role as an ambassador is to help people meet each other. So I introduce new members who are considering joining the chamber, and really being that network connector and
Yeah.
helping people appreciate the value of the chamber. So whether it's reaching out for our Coffee and Connections meetings that occur every month, those are meetings where new members attend, as well as those potential members who are really just checking it out.
Of course.
So it's just an opportunity to come together to share our businesses, what we do, and how we can support one another.
Yeah, that's great. And it's amazing when you meet people who are just so generous with their time and with their resources. Being a connector out there in the community, I just think is just a great business practice. You know, putting people together with the resources that they need is something that just makes you feel good.
Agreed.
Yeah. So, Linda, tell me a little bit about your story and what brought you to become an owner of a franchise with Always Best Care.
So, it is an interesting story. I always believe in giving back to the community. And I guess my story started a while ago. I was in pharmaceutical sales, so I'm a salesperson at heart. But I specialized in cancer or oncology. So I always felt really good that I was able to introduce new medicine to the physicians that needed to take care of our patients.
Of course.
And I did that for many, many years. And then went and did a little side stint into laboratory sales, and that was still in the field of oncology. And it would involve, helping, getting those tests or promoting those tests, those deep molecular tests that people have to take in order to get your type of cancer diagnosis, right?
Wow.
So that you know how to be treated. So I covered all of New England, had teams underneath me. I have a very deep medical understanding. But then things changed a little bit. Yes, your parents start getting older, right?
Right.
Nobody takes that into account, right? Because that's just life, you know.
That's
but
true.
My dad had some dementia. He had a lot of dementia for about 7 years. And I really saw, we had a good caregiver in there. We had a great caregiver. But at the same time, I really realized the need to help our seniors. And the way I look at it too is I loved my parents so much. They made me who I am today. It's the least that I can do to help them and other seniors as well too in their final stages of living. And it was a way for me to give back.
Yeah.
And I'm able, by opening up my own business with home care, we sell two things. One is home care, and we also help place people in assisted living communities as well. It's really giving back and taking care of them so that we give the right care and we give good care. We take the care very, very seriously, what we do.
Of course.
And I felt by going into this, I was able to more directly touch our seniors. And so that's what led me into opening the franchise. We've been open for, so it's a franchise. There's over 250 locations in the U.S.
Okay. Yep.
And there's 6 locations in Connecticut under Always Best Care Senior Services. And I've had my franchise for over 6 years.
Okay.
So we're very well known in the area, and we love helping people.
Yeah.
Love bringing the care in.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think you're helping people at a point in their lives when they need it the most.
They need it the most, and the children, the adult children, so to speak, really have no clue on where to go, how to do this. Mom and dad have never taught them this is the road you have to go down because they didn't know it either.
Know. Right, yeah.
And they just grew up knowing nursing homes.
Yeah.
Because we're still dealing with the 80 to 100-year-old generation. We're not, Dave, even dealing with the baby boomers yet.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, they're too young.
They're young. By the year 2030, so that's 6 years from now, every baby boomer will have turned 65.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's amazing.
That's when that population will really start growing. But taking care of people, that's the biggest population. We're going to have a tsunami on our hands, so to speak.
That's very true.
In a couple of years in taking care of everybody. And they want to stay at home.
Yeah. Most people do.
Most do, right? Their home is their castle, whether it is a castle or a shack, whatever they have. Of
course, yeah.
That's their home.
Yeah.
And they're comfortable there. They know the furniture. They know how to walk it.
Yeah.
So that's where they want to be.
Yeah. I think that you're right on with that. And I think, as people are getting older, that the age is becoming younger. That's the joke, right? 65 is the new 55,
Well, I feel that way.
Right, exactly. And it is true because people are living longer. We're doing better with medicine. We're doing better to help people with their health so that they know, longevity is something that's increasing. So of course we're going to run into these issues where people need more assistance. And it can be, a devastating accident. It can be age. It can be all of these things. And it's something that people don't think ahead of. They don't plan for it. And one of the biggest reasons is nobody wants to think about it, right?
Right.
Yeah. So the people that you're helping, talk to me a little bit about some of the scenarios that you run into. When does somebody typically reach out?
Well, crisis mode, but we try to avoid that. People reach out when the adult children can't handle it anymore, or when it becomes a burden to them. You always want to keep the relationship of mother, and I'm making this up, but you always want to keep the relationship of a mother-daughter or a mother-father or a son to the mother, the parent-child relationship.
Right.
Once the child starts taking care of the parent, that relationship changes. It becomes caregiver and client, and even the verbiage changes, even the relationship changes.
Yeah.
And that's when they reach out to us and say, hey, Linda, I just can't do it anymore. Mm-hmm. I have my kids, I have my grandbabies, I have this, and it's true. So that's where we usually come to step in. We'll educate the family on home care, what it involves, how we help out with ADLs, that's considered activities of daily living, such as bathing, grooming, getting them out of bed, helping them walk. Are they a fall risk? Making meals, light housekeeping, transportation. So it's doing a lot or everything to keep them safe at home.
Right.
Yeah. And it would be great if we do get some people that are planning.
Yeah.
Infrequently.
Of course.
That say we have to put these services in place. And sometimes it's just a minimal amount of service, like 4 hours a day or 4 hours every 3 days, 4 hours 3 times a week. Yeah. Other times we can provide service up to 24 hours and have a live in there. So it all depends on the situation. We can provide companionship for maybe people that don't have family around, all the way up to helping somebody that's bedbound and hospice. So there's, every individual is completely different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's for sure. I think that's the lesson with many things. With what I do in consulting people on their health insurance and Medicare options, you have to approach it. Every single situation is different. As much as they all want to be the same and they're talking to each other about what the coverages are, it doesn't mean it's going to be what's right for them is right for you. Every situation is going to be different and you need to approach it in that manner.
Yeah. So when we meet with the client, we develop a care plan that's specific to that individual. We are a non-medical home care, which means we don't provide nursing or physical therapy or occupational therapy,
right.
But we provide caregivers that help take care of the person, but each person has their own unique care plan nonetheless.
So are there clients who are not receiving medical services but are benefiting from what you provide?
Absolutely.
There are, okay.
Absolutely. In fact, the medical services, those are considered home health care companies.
Right.
They provide specialized services. But keep in mind, if you have physical therapy or occupational therapy or nursing, they come in for only an hour at a time.
Yeah.
Right? We support them. We are in there from 4 hours, like I said, all the way up to 24 hours, depending on the needs of the individual. Mm-hmm. So we are really the gateway into the medical community, so to speak, in that care begins at home with the home care aide.
Of course.
Yeah.
Right. So there can be overlap. They can be
Absolutely.
Receiving medical treatment in the home, and then your staff is there to support all of these other needs.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And then, so that's not all you do, as you had mentioned, right? So Cynthia's role is a whole other service that you provide. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. I'm a senior living consultant, and I work with seniors who are making their transition from either home or rehab. They're in a situation where it's just not safe for them to remain at home, or it's a situation where son or daughter is in another state or in another town, and it's just not feasible. As Linda said, they're kind of the sandwich generation. They've got their own families, they've got their work. So I'm contacted generally by the daughter, and I act as the surrogate daughter. So I provide the services where daughter or family member is thinking about making that move, and my role is one of a consultant role. I want to know about mom. I want to know about her career. What are her likes and dislikes? Does she like music? Does she like art? I'm acting as a realtor in this situation to find the right senior living community based on those things that I just mentioned. What's the budget? What's the location that's preferable? Lifestyle preferences. And so I'm creating a picture in my mind of whether or not I am going to introduce this family to an assisted living community that has more of a medical model, where mom needs a place where there is nursing on staff 24/7. Or is mom in a situation where a social model is more appropriate for her, where the emphasis is more on social activities and keeping the mind engaged and keeping the physical body engaged.
Right.
So those are the benefits and the consulting services that I bring to the table to help the family make the choices. So I'll put together a list after I've met with the family. I'll put together a list of communities. We'll go over why I've chosen those particular communities, and the family decides which ones they want to tour. I'll set up the tour. I will accompany them on the tour. We'll do a debrief after each tour. Is this going to stay on the list? Yes, no, why? And then we move through that process until the right community is found.
That's really great.
And then I would provide services to the family, whether they need an elder care attorney, they need a realtor, they need a move management company. Oftentimes, since I am dealing with the next generation, the son, the daughter, they're realizing, as you had said before, that they are not financially or emotionally prepared. They're next. They're the next generation.
Right.
And so I would refer Nutmeg Advisory Group, for example.
Right.
I would recommend a financial advisor. Whatever their needs are, I help them work through that entire process.
Yeah, I mean, you're in that position. I can only imagine that you really are getting a full picture of what their needs are.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, how great it feels to provide some resources to them to solve those needs and to really help them to connect with who they need to talk to next.
I have to tell you, it's just so fulfilling and rewarding. This position for me is a calling rather than a job.
Yeah.
I went through this process with my mom. You know, it's one of the classic stories. She had fallen and broken her hip. She was in her mid-80s. The doctor did not want to do surgery on her, felt that it was more of a risk. So she went to rehab, and then we made a plan to bring her home. And she was non-weight bearing, and so we had to have help 24/7 in the home, of course, along with my dad. And it just got to be too much because there's not only the financial aspect of this, it's also the emotional preparation.
Of course.
You know, now what do we do? And there wasn't anybody to talk to. There wasn't anybody to consult and advise. And so we did the best we could. And it was one of those situations where somebody knew somebody who knew somebody who knew somebody.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And, you know, you hold your breath, you cross your fingers, and you make that next step, that next step. And thank goodness it was a good choice. But I always wondered, why isn't there someone who can advise? Why isn't there? You know, is this is this a business in the making?
Yeah.
And that was in 2007, 2008. My mom did pass. She made her transition in 2009. But that story, that emotional quagmire that the family found ourselves in, always stayed with me.
Yeah.
It's interesting, when I was going through this, I was placing IT consultants. And now I'm
That's
placing
very different.
seniors.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's a journey. As I said before, there's an emotional component to this.
Of course.
Daughter, children, they're looking at their mother, they're looking at their father, and it just isn't connecting.
Right.
And so much of what I do is to help the kids kind of understand that they're going through a grieving process, and they have to accept that. And so let's get the emotional piece, let's understand what's going on emotionally. It's okay to be going through this process.
Yeah.
We can put that to the side for right now. Let's get our heads on to make the right decision for mom or for dad. And then step in for me and, put that list together of communities and help them through that process.
Yeah. I think that's a really great point.
And, the relationship continues.
Yeah.
I place someone in a community, a couple in a community, and unfortunately, Mr. passed away this past weekend. And, I was there with the family. They become part of your family.
Yeah,
you
of course.
I can't help that. And
Yeah.
I know that Linda feels the same way too. You're in someone's home, you're in someone's life.
Right. Yeah.
So I think what I like about what we do together is that it's not, most home care agencies that you see just want to promote home care.
Yeah.
And we don't. We promote what is the best for mom or dad to go into. Is it home care or is it assisted living community? Whatever it is, we want to do the best thing.
Of course.
And sometimes the services overlap as well. We had one client who's almost been with me for 6 years, and we just started out with home care, and then it ended up becoming a live-in, and we had a live-in aide in there. And it became where the daughter felt she wanted a little bit more socialization. She didn't want her to stay at home anymore. So Cynthia helped move her to an assisted living community, and that's okay. That was the best thing for her. Even in the assisted living community, she needed some more care, so we had a caregiver specifically for her in there. So the game is always changing,
Yeah.
right? You just want to be able to help the best way possible, and that's what I like about what we do. Home care, assisted living communities, placement, whatever works, whatever makes the family happy, and whatever's the best fit for mom or dad.
Yeah.
And that's a great point, Linda. Oftentimes I'll be meeting with a family and they need that interim step. And so home care becomes that interim step. Let's put our toe in the water. Let's get a caregiver into the home and then make the transition into an assisted living community. Or during that scenario where there's a caregiver in the home, daughter is planting the seed.
Yeah.
Okay. The next process, the next part of the journey is to consider assisted living, an assisted living community. And like Linda said before, that generation thinks, I'm going to be in my home or I'm going to go to a nursing home. And that's the last place for me. So a lot of what I do is to educate my seniors and also their families that there is such a wide variety of opportunities.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Some of these communities they're like
The Taj
being
Mahal.
like the Taj Mahal, being on a cruise ship.
Yeah.
There are activities, entertainment. Some communities have, last year, one of our communities had a trip to Greece. The prior years, they had a trip to Rome. These are active seniors. And if they're in a situation where they do need a caregiver to go on the trip with them, wouldn't that be great? They're provided a caregiver. So it's a wonderful thing to see me being in a situation with my mom in 2007 to coming to this point where there are advisors, there are home care companies, there are people for families to reach out to get the counseling and the guidance that they need, so they're more educated, they feel more empowered.
Yeah, I think it's just so important. So much of what you both have said is resonating in my head as well. I mean, as you know what I do with helping people with Medicare, so I do see the needs that are out there. I've been a part of families and that decision to put mom into a nursing home or into a care facility where they're fighting it, kicking and screaming, no, this is not going to happen, because of what you said. Like, they think that's the last step. And then they get there and their life starts over again. They're revitalized, and they're part of a community. And so they don't understand that it's a good thing. It can be a positive thing in their lives and as a part of their journey.
That didn't exist when they were growing up.
Of course. Yeah,
so that's why they don't know.
Right. So they don't know what they don't know. And so our job is to make sure that people understand that that's out there. Mm-hmm. And Cynthia, what you had mentioned too, all of this for children of aging parents, it is a grieving process, right? That our relationships with our parents change as they get older, as we get older. And there's a part of it that is letting go of what used to be. And it's a very important part of it, because I think that's another area where people tend to fight it. They don't realize that what they're feeling is okay. And it's, you have to let yourself feel it. You have to make it an active part of your life where you try to find a way to get beyond that part. Like, let's put some actual action into what we're trying to do. What are we trying to accomplish? What needs are we trying to meet? Things are not going to continue the way they've always done, but it doesn't mean that they have to get worse.
No, and when you go past that grieving step, realizing that mom and dad are old, you can hopefully put that behind you and enjoy the time that you had left and bring that love back that you have for both parents, or one or the other, whatever the situation is, so that when you visit them, it's more joyful and it's more loving.
Yeah.
And then you can really develop new memories and cherish those memories as well too.
Yeah, I think people don't realize that that's a part of it as well, right? So there's a dignity piece.
Absolutely.
For a parent.
Yes.
They don't want to be taken care of by their children many times.
Many times, you're right.
And many of us as children think, oh, I'll do anything for my parents. Like you said, they did everything for me. I will do whatever it takes to pay them back. In my family, we had my nanny, who suffered from Alzheimer's for many years, lived a very long life, lived many, many years with Alzheimer's. And the family kind of rallied together, my mother and my aunts and uncles. They all were able to kind of put a plan in place and be a part of that caretaking. And then I lost my dad at a very young age. He was 59. He battled leukemia.
That's early, yes.
Yeah, he battled leukemia for 1 year before he passed. And in that year, because it was just, it was so shocking that this was happening, we ended up having to take care of him in ways that we never thought we would, ways he didn't want us to. Now, to us, it was an honor to be able to do that. It was a part of that. Like, we felt good about being able to give back in that way. But I do know from his perspective, he would have probably enjoyed somebody else taking care of him and letting us just continue our relationships as sons and daughter.
Yeah, that's the best way to do it. I mean, every situation's different, but you're right. If you can continue that son-daughter relationship, that's the way it should be. That's why we're there to step in and make that happen.
I'm remembering a situation where a daughter was sitting across the table from me, and she began to get teary-eyed. And I said, "What's going on?" And she said, "I promised my mother I would take care of her." Now, I was working with the family to find Mom a memory care community that was the most suitable for her. So the daughter kept saying, "I promised my mom I would take care of her." And I said, "But you are taking care of her. This is the best plan. Can you see that this is the best plan?" There were many benefits from that conversation, because the daughter was able to speak her emotion. She was able to get her guilt and fear out into the conversation. put that aside and then realize and understand that, yes, selecting a memory care community was the best option for her mom. And she can now resume her role as daughter, as Linda was saying earlier. She can resume her role as the daughter and enjoy the rest of mom's life with her.
Right. Right. So she's
It was a
fulfilling
beautiful
that
thing.
promise.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then also getting to enjoy the time that's left.
Yeah.
Yeah. How amazing that is.
Yeah. And I've also placed, I was contacted by a young woman, by a daughter, who was looking for a community for her mom. We set up a time. I met her mom, who was in from Florida. Daughter brought her mom up from Florida. Daughter prepared a beautiful apartment in the lower level of her home. And so when I met mom, she was unable to string more than 4 or 5 words together.
Oh, wow.
And I made a plan for her, found a suitable community for her. She moved in. And 3 or 4 months later, Linda and I had gone to this community, and mom had come out from the community room where they were enjoying activities. And she said, Cynthia, I don't remember your name. No, she said, she wasn't calling to me, but she was saying, I remember you. Oh, I want to tell you, I'm so happy here. Want to come up and see my room? The change was
That's amazing.
Remarkable. This is what happens.
Yeah.
They begin to thrive. They begin to have a purpose, and that purpose may just be a friendship or becoming a part of an activity.
I think a lot of it, and it was, she brought us up, she showed us her room, all her pictures that her grandkids gave her and everything. She was very proud. And I think the whole thing was socialization too.
Yeah,
You know,
huge
because a
part.
lot of our seniors are with children that leave the nest. They're global now, right? It's not like when they grew up that everybody stayed right around
Of course.
the church, so to speak,
Yeah.
you know, or the community. Kids are all over the world now nowadays. And so isolation is a big problem among seniors. And I think
Huge
in this
problem.
particular case that Cynthia mentioned, she was in a groups with people doing different things, doing different activities. And she lit up when she saw Cynthia, for sure. And so it was, that was a really good feeling to see and to know that you did the right thing in helping the family out, and even more important for mom.
Yeah, I can't imagine how that felt.
It was
That's
wonderful.
amazing. Yeah.
And another piece of what I do is to offer these consulting services free of charge.
Wow. That's great.
Yeah. That makes it even more fun, less pressure. The family doesn't have to worry about it. I'm not leaning toward one community or the other. I'm giving them options
Yeah.
and leading the family to make the best decision based on information.
So do you recommend, as far as that senior placement, is that something that people should start having conversations before they need it?
I work with families who are in the pre-planning stage, so they're laying the groundwork. They're understanding what's out there. Sometimes they begin to tour communities. So again, they're educating themselves with my help,
Yeah.
knowing what the pricing is, where these communities are, what they offer. I have those families who are in the planning stage. So they're, again, looking at options, looking at opportunities. There's more of an emphasis on this has got to be sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
And then, unfortunately, I have those families who are in crisis stage where mom fell, she's in rehab, she's going to be discharged next Wednesday. We got to find her a place.
I think Cynthia gets the opportunity to deal with all these different types of planning stages. When you look at the other end of the picture of home care, that's more in a crisis mode. Either people are coming out of rehab, and sometimes rehab or rehabilitation will not release them unless they have a caregiver in place. The only time we get to plan ahead of time is if somebody, let's say, is having a surgical procedure and they need some help for maybe a few weeks afterwards. That is more of a planning stage. But so I think we're dealing with all aspects of timelines
Right.
from
Yeah,
crisis
sounds like it.
to planning. And we have to be able to go with the flow and get the caregiver in fast or have Cynthia find them a place quickly. It's always nice if they're taking their sweet time and it's not a rush, but I would say more than likely it's immediate needs.
Yeah, I think that would be my assumption, is that there's people from all different areas and when it comes up in their lives. I think a lot of us, being able to put a plan in place as a part of our retirement planning, understanding the costs for care like this, so that you can have a plan so that you know how to cover it. Others, I think just getting out in front and making sure they're aware of these services exist. I think the other fear out there too is, can they afford it? What kind of resources do they have in order to have this type of care?
That you bring up a very good point, David, because this type of care, home care, is still considered private pay.
Yes.
Okay. When you look at home health care, if you get specialized services in, such like nursing or physical therapy, occupational, that is paid for by Medicare.
Right.
So we still have a lot of legislation up at Capitol Hill going on. We're still making our plea that home care is just as important because, as I mentioned before, it's the gateway into the medical arena of seniors. And the more you can keep a person at home, the less costly in the long run
Of
it is
course.
to Medicare.
Yeah.
Right? Because they're not paying for nursing home charges or anything else.
Yeah.
But there are different things out there or different programs to help. We are a preferred provider for the VA, the Veterans Administration. We take care of a lot of veterans. They have programs in place that can help seniors like this for home care. So, and they're very active in that to take care of their veterans. We also, some people, clients had the foresight a long time ago to put long-term care insurance in place.
Yes.
That's not as popular as it was back then, but those people that have it, they put money away to help them when they get older. The problem is getting them to use that money and that policy
Right.
when they get older.
Yeah, they're only as good as you can use it.
Right.
Yeah.
And they don't think they're old, even though they're 90,
Right.
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 So there are programs in place that can help people,
Yeah.
but we still have to overcome and deal with our government to try to help put something in place that can really support home care.
Yeah, I think that's really important. There are a lot of long-term care solutions out there as far as on the insurance side that we know about, we help people with. And, again, it's a matter of affordability for people. It's a matter of, is it going to work when I need it? Or am I going to have to fight the insurance company to get the payments? Those are all types of things. Having a trusted advisor to help guide you through is so important.
Absolutely.
And it's one of the reasons why all of us do so much networking, because we know that we're going to run across these needs and we want to be able to help those folks that need them.
Mm-hmm. For sure. So we're always looking for ways to help them.
Yeah. Yeah. So how about as far as the business itself, how many home caregivers do you have?
So we are considered right now a medium-sized company. We have about 80 clients that we're taking care of, about 120 caregivers on
Wow.
board.
Okay.
The caregivers are my employees. That's very important when you want to hire a company to help take care of your loved one. You want to hire somebody that employs your caregivers. The reason for that is we support our caregivers. We are the backbone. So what I mean by that is we cover professional liability. We cover workers' comp. We are bonded. So we take the brunt of the responsibility of putting somebody in their home.
Yeah.
Same for the caregivers. You want to deal with a company that really scrutinizes and does a real thorough background check on the caregivers.
Of course, yeah.
Because you're putting a stranger basically in their home to take care of them.
Yeah.
But we look at criminal status in the state and nationally. We look at sex offender status in the state and nationally. We check DMV, motor vehicle status. That tells a tremendous amount. We actually check Social Security status to make sure they're qualified U.S. citizens. We're looking at the Office of Inspector General, OIG reports, to make sure they are qualified to work in the U.S., and then doing background checks.
That's amazing.
Yep. So when all is said and done, we feel pretty comfortable putting this caregiver in the home. Mm-hmm. Then we take additional measures too. My operations manager will constantly do unannounced checks in the home to make sure the care plan is being carried out accordingly to how it was written, and that the client looks happy, they look clean, they look healthy,
Right,
and our
yeah.
caregiver, we also have to take care of our caregiver too.
Yes.
They're our employee. We want to make sure the caregiver is happy, enjoys being with this client. So we're taking care of everybody, caregiver, client, relationship.
I love
and
that
everything.
you're saying all of those things, because it's so important that the people that are working for you also feel cared for.
Yes.
And, that the culture is something that they want to be a part of, because that would show in the work, right? So if somebody was unhappy with their position, then they may not do as good a job taking care of the people that they're supposed to be caring
Absolutely. The caregivers are the backbone of our company.
Yeah.
They really are. They support us in all that we do. And I would say the majority of them are wonderful people.
Yeah.
And that's a different type of person too. It's a person that also has a passion or a calling to take care of people, somebody else.
Yeah.
Right? So
not easy work.
I don't think it's easy at all. I don't think
Rewarding,
it's,
but not easy.
Yes, and it hasn't been recognized as to the degree that it should be.
Yeah, of course.
I think you will see a lot of things change, regulation-wise, government-wise, coverage-wise, as the baby boomers, the tsunami, just
I hope so.
comes through. Yeah, because that'll be me too.
Yeah.
But you're going to have such a huge population that things are
We'll
going to have
force
to
legislation.
Yes,
changes.
force legislation in place. That's like what you see now. You see all these medical buildings popping up all over the place, right? Hartford Healthcare, Yale. I mean, these buildings are popping up left and right.
Yeah, they are.
They're all getting ready for this tsunami of baby boomers, because that is the U.S. population. That's the largest population we're going to be dealing with.
Yeah.
And so everybody's getting prepared.
Right. Yeah. Now, as far as, are you always hiring caregivers? Are there certain people you're looking for?
We are always hiring.
You
Anybody can always come to our
Okay.
office to apply. A lot of the caregivers that we're looking for, we want to see that they have experience.
Okay.
We bring them in, we interview them. Like I said, we do a thorough background check. We onboard them. We're doing continual training as well. There's different training courses that they can do to refresh and keep up to date on. And a lot of them, we are looking for CNAs, which is our certified nurse assistant.
Okay.
Or you can have an HHA, which is a home health care aide as well. So we're looking for these type of people that have different certifications as well.
That's great.
And sometimes you just have that special person, man or woman, that have been doing this for their whole life,
yeah.
and they're the best caregivers ever.
Yeah,
too.
that's great. That's really great. Are there other services that you provide? I know I was on your website for a little while and just looking. I really just loved some of the content that's up there. There are some resources up there, some videos about, what you need and what you provide and things like that. Is there anything else that you want to make sure people are aware of?
We have a couple programs in place as well. One of the programs that we have in place is what's known as a 24/7 monitor. When our caregivers are not there, this device can pick up falls, sounds, alerts, cries for help. And it's HIPAA compliant, so it's not seeing, but it's hearing. So if somebody falls, it's picking up the sound of them falling.
Okay.
And it sends us alerts, or it sends us notifications, so that we can better address the care that's going on. And it has resulted in some cases increased care, because we're hearing more falls, or we're seeing cries for help. One situation was so cute. Well, as I guess that you can say, it was a husband-wife, and they slept in separate beds, but he wanted to get up to give his wife a kiss goodnight each time,
sweet.
and he fell each time.
No.
And, when we realized that this was happening, we said, okay, we need a 24-hour caregiver in there. to make this happen. So different things like that. Our agency also has a program where if you wanted to implement, it's called Always in Touch. If people are isolated, don't have anybody around them, we can have our, so to speak, headquarters has people there that will reach out to them and talk to them on a daily basis. So that's what's called Always in Touch. These people get to understand who they are, they get conversations going, and it just connects people together to make them feel more connected to life.
Yeah, important.
Yes, very important. We have another program that we can implement where it's medical monitoring. We don't administer it, but if they're interested in it, such as taking blood pressure every day, taking pulse ox readings, going on the scale to see what their weight is, like for COPD. We have that in place that we can implement it, and then Medicare pays for it.
That's great.
As well. So there are different programs that differentiate us from the other 900 home care companies
There's a lot out
that
there.
are in the state of Connecticut.
Right, exactly. And do you have a certain territory that you work with, or can people all over Connecticut contact you?
People can contact us all over. My marketing area is the New Haven County area that we deal with.
Yeah.
But if something comes in that's, let's say, in Danbury, we would recommend them to our sister company up in the Danbury.
So the franchises work together.
We work together.
Okay.
That's the nice thing about being with a franchise, is that there's good quality programs put in place. We talk to each other. We help. So we cover basically about 95% of the state.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yes.
For my services, I could work with families anywhere in Connecticut.
Okay, great to know. And how many of these senior living facilities are there? I mean, it sounds like there's just an incredible amount of choice out there.
They're in every major area.
And they're also increasing.
Yeah.
Being
And
built.
increasing.
Yeah, I've seen a lot.
The only areas that are where senior living communities are sparse might be up in the northeastern part of the state.
Yeah,
you know, Putnam, Brooklyn.
Yep.
Or in the northern western part of the state in Litchfield County.
Okay.
And families understand that. Families understand that they're going to have to travel a little bit. But they're everywhere in Connecticut, and as Linda is saying, understanding the need that is upon us now and will continue to grow.
Yeah.
More and more communities are opening, and they're becoming more accommodating, whether that's emotionally accommodating, physically accommodating, offering potential residents all kinds of activities, like I said before, trips abroad, buses to the casinos,
Right, yeah.
out to restaurants for day trips. It's
The socialization.
It's amazing.
Yeah. That's fantastic. So what is the best way for people to find you? If somebody feels like they want to learn more maybe, or they actually have a need they're trying to get a solution for, what's the best way?
So we can definitely, there's a couple ways that you can get in touch with us. You can always call us. Our number is 203-269-1522. We have a staff there that's wonderful. They'd be able to help you in any way possible. We're also on Facebook, Always Best Care Greater New Haven. We have a website, www.abcgreaternewhaven.com, or even just Google Always Best Care in Wallingford.
Right, yeah.
So there's many ways to reach us.
Okay, that's great.
And I can be reached by calling or texting at 475-559-6899.
Excellent. Well, we are getting to the point where we're going to wrap up for now, but I have to tell you both, it has been a real pleasure getting to know both of you over the years, working with the Chamber and networking. I'm so relieved that there are people like you out there in the world who have something that they're using to help others, to help our senior population. It's just an incredible thing. I think it's so important that people realize that you guys are out there and you're available.
Thank you, Dave. We look at it as a privilege and an honor.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you, David.
Hopefully, maybe we'll have you on again as things progress. But we really appreciate you being here and for the support of the podcast. Sounds of Health is brought to you by Nutmeg Insurance Advisors and recorded at the offices of Nutmeg Advisory Group. The podcast is produced by Jason Carubia and Dave McNiven, with music by Rob Hames. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, X, and wherever you listen to your podcast. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and leave a review. Each week, our plan is to spotlight the stories, people, and resources that inspire and motivate others to improve their health, and we're just getting started. Help us to share these sounds and don't keep us a secret.